to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining in The Sphere, a show that endeavors to bring you news that excites, invokes, and inspires. This is not fake news. This is not alternative facts. This is Society Now. I'm your host, Kira Laws, and you can follow me on Instagram at TheModernDayCindy, and this is my handsome, lovely, well, you know the rest.
Hey, y'all, what's going on? This is Kaylin, a.k.a. Senor Wapo. Follow me on all social media outlets. Senor Wapo 713. You can go to my blog, SeniorWapos.com. I forgot my blog name. And welcome to Society Now. It's good to see your face in the place, Kim.
My place in the face.
I can't talk today. I don't know what's going on.
My face in the place.
There it is.
I know it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on because we're politicking today. It's what we're gonna do. We're gonna politic. Hey,
just put on that hat. That's why I got a different hat on.
It's important because you got your blue hat on. That's a very professional blue hat.
Blue hat for a certain side of the aisle.
For a certain side of the aisle, okay? And so we have a nice woman here today. She's a lovely woman. Y'all have to know her. Y'all need to know her. Her name is Christina Sanders. She is somebody you have to know that's a mover and shaker in politics. She's a young politician doing great things. I shouldn't really call her a politician because she's a woman of a lot of different hats, right? So she does a lot of things in civil engagement and civic engagement, galvanizing the people with information, facts, and just really being a person of the people. So Christina's here. She's going to let her tell you more about what she does.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, first and foremost, I just, civic engagement, that's what I do. I find the different mediums and the different venues where people who I'm interested in, mostly people who have been historically marginalized and people of color, and I, do my best to engage them. So whether it's in the classroom as a professor, whether it's, organizing in the streets or training women around the state, around the country about how to get involved, I just do politics stuff that get people to get their weight up and get involved in America.
So what? Give us the story behind the name Politics. Such a savvy.
The Politics.
The Politics. I'm sorry,
the Politics.
Yeah.
One, because
such a savvy name.
One, because I feel like I'd like most women or female identified persons to feel comfortable being politics, which is someone who's versed and happy or enthusiastic about playing their role or being a part of the community or not afraid of politics or to talk about it. So it's an empowering thing, I think, for other women. But the politic is, politic, because I'm sure that I was born loving politics and enjoying politics, and the politic just came, and I was like, "That's it. That's
like,
it."
It works.
That's it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's only one, so why not be the first, to do it, right?
The
first to market. I have a question. So you said you were probably born loving politics. Do you remember any specific thing that really galvanized you, that made you think I need to really focus on that, but made you pursue your studies in this area?
And you know what? Actually, I do. Well, I mean, I'll share two things. One, I was addicted to C-SPAN for absolutely no reason.
C-SPAN. Let me tell y'all, first of all, hold on.
Who does that?
That's when your TV, when your remote your remote, you just stop at that channel. You just sitting there.
All
They
you
just
saw
talking
was
about
the guys in the circular
tables, like
the
that
white
conference
guys,
table,
the black dudes, maybe
and they
two
walking back and
Latinos.
forth. You know, they got their water glass.
Yeah.
Somebody's at the
And-
podium
yeah,
talking.
absolutely.
Everybody's like,
and a big billboard or like
Yeah.
a poster and nothing in an empty
And you
audience.
were hooked.
Actually, I taught myself about politics by watching C-SPAN.
okay.
And I learned so much. I mean, I learned too much. I don't know why. That's why I say it's organic. It's got to be because it's awkward. But even my little sisters, like I would just watch C-SPAN just for no reason. I don't even know why. But there was one day. My mom was taking my sister to the library for a project, my little sister, and she was like, "You need to come." And I'm like, "Why? I never have to go with you guys." She was like, "I'm going to the library." I was like, "Why do I have to go to the library?" I don't know why she was making me go, but I went. I was so angry. I was frustrated.
Because you were missing C-SPAN.
Probably I was missing ER. I was also addicted to ER and C-SPAN. Don't ask me why.
Okay,
I don't know.
that's different.
But I went into the library and I was frustrated. I was like, I'm going to go by myself. So I went and I immediately went to this book called, two books. One called Pirates of the Cell, which is an interesting book. I don't think I turned these books in, by the way, but never mind. That was a long time ago, I think.
But then the bill is high. Lord.
I mean, high.
I think I'm
Grace.
exempt by now.
Yeah, right. The grace has set
But
in.
it was Pirates of the Cell, and it was about cells, literally, and about viruses and how they got into the cells. I opened it, and I'm like, wow, I have to check this one out. And then there was one, articles for and against the United States Constitution. It was the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. I never did anything about the Constitution, but immediately when I opened that book, I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I think I was maybe 15 years old and 15 or 16 years old. And I fell in love with the Constitution right then and there. Maybe I already loved it. I just got reintroduced to what I love. And ever since, I just was like, this is where I want to spend my energy.
That light, that spark.
That's so crazy because at 15, basketball and girls for me. That was it.
What was I doing at 15?
15, that was it.
I was still in my hair phase. Like, I love doing hair.
Yeah.
So, like, that was my thing. I would read all day and do hair. Don't judge me.
Listen, I played ball, and I played ball so the girls could see me play ball.
Okay. It was never about the guy. It was always about a book and some hair for me. Instead of reading a book.
Very interesting.
15, I mean, hey, that's different.
So
I mean, I love it. I think
right,
it's great.
So
It's a
you
great
were
time.
reading a book, right? But Christina, you have a book.
I do have a book.
You have a book. So tell us about the book.
My book actually came out last year. Get Your Weight Up: Things We Can All Do to Make a. Actually, 2 years in 2016. Wow, it went by so fast. Get Your Weight Up: Things We Can All Do to Make America Better, and it's about how we can better understand the Constitution from a sense of not where it was in 1787 in regards to race, in regards to socioeconomics, in regards to separating men and women or class, but understanding how it's a living document. And every single day we have the right, the power, and the space to be able to change and evolve our government to where it should be and where we'd like it to be.
I love where she's going with this. We don't see enough people that look like us passionate about the Constitution. And we see people passionate about, things that are happening within their community, but not necessarily knowing enough about the Constitution to be able to address. Like you said, it's a living document. So you're able to speak to your issues from the Constitution, then you actually have some leverage, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So tell me, what is some things you feel like the people need to know right now? Like things that they need to get ahead of, things they need to stay on top of from a constitutional perspective. What's going on in the world today?
Well, there's
It's a lot.
I'm not going to talk about your president today.
No, I didn't.
I can't talk about y'all president.
No.
No.
But I
me in my
will
house.
say-
Talk about y'all that's listening and watching. I mean, because
Somebody.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. I'll say that there's a major evolution that's occurring in terms of power, space, authority. With the demographics of the people who are supporting Trump, the people who are not supporting Trump.
Yeah.
The book I picked up, The Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, they basically were people who were for, a central government and people who weren't really for a central government for various reasons. And it boiled down to who gets power and who gets control.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the voters, you have a group of voters who are like, we need power and authority to go to people who have been left out of the system. But you also have a whole group of people who are like, no, we need to keep this white. We need to keep this right.
Yeah.
Even though those people who are actually saying it never got they 40 acres and a mule, but
They
that's a
never
whole
got
nother
it. Ooh, and they
conversation.
don't know that they never received
It's
it
like
either.
y'all weren't included. Y'all
Y'all
didn't got
wasn't even
anything.
included.
But the point is, I think, is that people it's important for us right now to know that with everything out in the open, there's a new framing that's occurring.
Yeah.
And I believe every generation, every time we open the Constitution, every time we fold new communities into the Constitution, new ideas into the Constitution, we're reframing the conversation of where we are and who we are as a country. And I think it's really important for us to not just be on the sidelines marching in the streets. It's important for us to be at the table, understanding our documents, our rules, and changing anything and everything that we feel doesn't fit who we are as a country right now.
It is a living document. Like you said, it's more important for us to stay current and on top of what's going on. Like you said, not necessarily thinking about what happened in the past. We know what happened in the past. We're very aware that when the Constitution was first framed, certain people were not included in it. We weren't considered. Now we're considered. So now we have to think about what
not
our rights.
Not considered. That is our Constitution.
Right.
It's not, and it is our Constitution. And I think in chapter 2 of my book, I really go into that. So many people feel left out. That's why they don't participate in the system. But it's our responsibility to own it and stop letting people talk us out of our power, our rights. This is our country. This isn't like, oh, I'm a secondhand citizen. No, I'm not going to ask you, does my Black life matter? I know I'm going to walk around. I'm going to live every single day because I know that my Black life matters.
Not asking for permission to be an American. Not asking for permission and not even living as a second-class citizen. Yeah.
Some of the power that people in the established, that people in higher levels of the established society have is that they've convinced people that they don't have power, that they don't matter, that they don't have value. And so what do you do if you feel that way? You don't do anything that demands that everything is working in the way that you feel like it should be working, and you don't get engaged and you don't get involved. And it's very difficult, but it's very simple. The key thing is to get involved, stay involved, but be clear as to what we want. And it has to happen or this government cannot exist.
Well, let me ask you this, and I just have to, I know you have something, but I just want to ask this because I know it is I think the conversation happens not necessarily, we're having this conversation right now. We're much older, we're much more mature, but the conversation needs to start happening when people are much younger. It needs to happen inside the home. It needs to happen at the dinner table. And I think because we have to educate everybody about this different thought process that maybe we were, or some people were robbed of, where should we look to get that ongoing educational piece? Do we look for, of course we can't necessarily look at our educational institutions alone, right? Because that part may not be being taught. So where do people reach out to get information and that's palatable for them? Because everyone doesn't understand and connect with reading the same way, right? Because some things are read in a way that people just cannot dissect. So what would you say?
I would say, most of the information is readily available. And I think just you can even do as simple of a Google search or some type of on their online journals. There's plenty of like outlets where you can get the basics of the information. The beauty of the beauty of this whole process in regards to the Constitution is that all you need is the basics. What you want comes from families have to start sitting with their kids and themselves and looking at their parents' situation, looking at their aunts, looking at some of the challenges in the community. And that's where the answers come from. That's where, the information about what we need to stay on top of, like that's where it comes from. There's this book called The Sociological Imagination. And one of the theories in it about the book is that you don't get the public policy or how society should go based on what the elites say or based on what the elected officials say. You get that information from the poets, from the community, from the ground. And so if we want to have a conversation with our families about how we evolve it, we're honest with ourselves, but we just look around and we say, how can my life be better? And is there something that is getting in the way of me being able to be more successful or have a better outcome for my kids and their success?
Absolutely.
We're listening to Christina Sanders here, giving us some doctrine that we should subscribe to, right? But also, we want to talk to our Facebook Live listeners and ask that you subscribe to our show on all major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. Review our show in iTunes with constructive feedback. Be nice now, and excuse me, and share this Facebook Live post in the entire show with your family and friends. Donate to our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can donate at www.thesphere.tv/donate. You were talking about giving us all of this game and this wisdom about the Constitution and talking about how you galvanize folks. But how can we, in your estimation, and how have you been successful in galvanizing the people that you serve and you've been serving to really be a part of this country and a part of this political process, especially when they feel so disenfranchised?
I think one, just educating, and then being extremely patient in educating them, being thoughtful about how hard it might be to receive this information when you've never learned anything about even, I think, the history of the significance of the African contribution to America and the fact that America's success would not be successful at all if it weren't for the Africans in this country. And I think being thoughtful about the hurdles that people experience when it comes to receiving slavery and talking about slavery and understanding that, but also groups who are dealing with other issues that are civil rights issues, being thoughtful. And I think also how I've been helpful is to help to create trainings where mostly targeted at young people and women. I think I've trained thousands of young people and thousands of women around the country, mostly in Texas, about how to get involved, how to tell your story, how to get engaged. And then really for women, it's about I feel like it's the courage. It goes back to the individual, the courage to be able to be steadfast with following through. The civil rights movement was successful because of just continuously putting the energy on the march, continuously focusing on, okay, how do we deal with this issue? How do we move forward in the bus boycotts? But I think today it's very different. It's about the courage that we have to really tell our story. And even if it's like a complaint at work that you're getting treated unfairly, or a Me Too complaint at work, it's about us being steadfast even today and having the courage to like be engaged and stay engaged. Because if our stories are happening to us, if we tell those stories, if we stay on those stories, we're actually going to change the lives of so many people. And so training people is also a way that I've been able to help.
I think you hit something that I want to talk about, and it really is the training, but also training not just on the information, but also how to communicate. I think a lot of times, because we different, and I've seen this. I teach a business communications course, so I see different ethnicities are marked with certain stereotypes and biases about who they are, and a lot of it comes to their personality types, character traits, things like that may not necessarily be inherent to an individual person, but a group, right? This has been attributed to groups. African Americans have largely been said to be aggressive in nature. Women are said to be a certain way. And I think a lot of times when we do voice our opinion, the way it's communicated is always marred by that type of stamping. And we have to find ways that we are training us to communicate on a way that doesn't seem so combative, but you can be passionate but not necessarily combative. And I think that is a balance that we have to learn, and it's come through from generation to generation. It's one thing not to have a voice, another thing to have a voice and feel like your voice is being shut down because you're viewed as, and it may not be correct, aggressive, because nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially persons in our ethnic group. We struggle with that marginalization of this painted picture of how aggressive we are as a group when we do speak. It's never, I heard what they said, and I thought they was very thoughtful. I thought it was very well thought. It's almost like a rarity when you do hear a compliment like that. It's almost like, oh, so you're not overbearing, so I think it's
impassioned.
Or impassioned. I heard that before, and I'm like, I'm not impassioned. I just don't like what you just said. It was very offensive, so we're not going to have this conversation. But I think there's a balance, because information paired with the right communication technique can go so far. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that that's going to be the end of it, but it just means that we have to find a balance between all of it. So I just wanted to add that in there, because I know a lot of people with a lot of information, but they're viewed as they get this pitchfork scary look, when people don't want to hear them because they're scared of them, and it's really ridiculous.
So what has been to that effect? What has been your experience as a woman of influence, a woman of power, a woman of substance, a woman of education, a woman of beauty, all of these things? And not that you're in the corporate space per se, but you do move in those realms, in and out of them. What has been your experience to that regard? How have you dealt with the nuances that present themselves?
Well, I think in terms of like being aggressive, I will say that I do pick up that a lot of people are afraid of me for no reason.
Going back to my point, and she's not anybody to be afraid of.
So incredibly kind. Seriously, but I don't play. They should be afraid if they think that, you know, yes, but also it's kind of like I don't think it's me. I think it's them. And I think, and I think that that's a good thing. Even though sometimes there are places and spaces that I want to be in, even in progressive communities, like really progressive groups and organizations, I'm kind of left, you know, to the side sometimes, which is okay because I feel like, you know, everything happens as it should. And I think the reason is that sometimes people are very insecure about their role that they play. So, and me as an African-American woman, sometimes there are, you know, white women or white guys, and not even white guys. I think that my experience has been mostly white women, sometimes black men, but mostly white women and gay men. And this is no offense to anyone. This is just my absolute truth. And I still love them. It doesn't bother me. But I find that they are most offended by my presence, even if I don't say anything. But I think what I pick up sometimes is that maybe they're insecure about their contribution, and if I'm there because I represent the communities that they're trying to really help, then that may be something that takes away from them or their role. And I think that goes into, you know, when you have people who are all fighting for a place, you know, the women's rights movement, the gay rights movement, sometimes you get into circles where people don't want you know, specifically, I think black women are marginalized a lot. People don't want, for some reason, black women to be there if they're actually being helpful. If they're not being like all very, very aggressive, and they're only talking about white supremacy. If they're not just talking about let's kill all the white supremacists, people don't know how to receive those types of folks in those really conversations. It's very unfortunate. We're evolving, but it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate
because what you want us to do is feed into a stereotype that we're trying to grow out of.
Don't fit into the box. It makes people uncomfortable. And I think it's because they've been taught this is how you deal with this person and this is how you deal with that person.
They don't have a manual for that.
And
hasn't been created yet.
Yeah, and then that's a concern. And if you've been taught your whole life, like this is how you respond to X, Y, and Z, you're not able to handle a person who's very different or unique. And it's scary at first. But I feel like compassion is so important because just like I'm challenged in my world, they're obviously challenged in their world. And it's just low levels of suffering that we've just got to evolve through.
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges that this world presents. Sometimes we run into financial challenges as well. But this portion of the show is sponsored by the Houston Housewives of Finance. Did you know that only 4 states in the United States offer financial education? 33% or more than 77 million Americans don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they don't have enough savings. Don't become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy today. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance at 1-844-700-4463 or email us at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Ask how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance are the new faces of the new age of financial services. And we have to also say bid adieu to our friends, our family, those of you who have subscribed and tuned in on Facebook Live. We appreciate you. Don Paul, that's right. It is our Constitution. Go to the hills and spread that message, brother. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
So I know we talked about a lot of different topics, but I just want to kind of change gears just a little bit because it's important. I think we need, what Christina's already said is totally good. It's our Constitution, Black African-American women, how people are viewing us, especially in our spheres of influence, being received. Education is important, knowing your rights, knowing what you have a right for, being able to speak to that right. You have to be able to do all of that. And I think that, in this day and age, what we're seeing is so many people speaking up about different things. But now it could be on the verge of the message being confused. So let's switching gears real quickly. I want to circle back to something we talked about last week. I know you weren't with us, but I'm going to kind of pull you into this conversation. Okay. Last week we were talking about pay disparity, and the example we used was Monique. And she went public and said that Netflix, she started a campaign and said that she wanted everybody to boycott Netflix with her. She was very passionate about what she was saying. She said that they only offered her a certain amount of money. It wasn't comparable to her peers that she felt were on the same level with her. She called out a few persons that are in that comedy space. We talked about this in detail at length last week with our guest. She made it a point to say that she felt like she was just as acclaimed, if not more, than they were, and felt like she deserved what they received. One of the points we made last week was like, of course you may want that, but you have to think about what they're doing currently versus what your history has been. There's been a gap in your presence, and Netflix is a business, and they're going to look at what are you going to be able to bring in. We're going to pay you, but it's about profit at the end of the day.
Return on investment.
One of the things, I guess, after social media went crazy, one of the things we did some digging. One of the things that was mentioned about, initially Netflix offered her $1 million, although it wasn't a written contract. It was the verbal. We'll give you $3 million. Excuse me. We'll give you $3 million, but in order to get to $3 million, you need to come in and audition for our comedy staff to make sure they feel like it's going to be something that would yield a big return. She said no, apparently, or allegedly said no, and that's when they gave her the contract for $500,000 with the clauses in it, which would have been the same clauses. Now, no, she produced what we call receipts in the street. She showed on social media the actual contract, which was, it had a lot of clauses in it. Some of them were kind of familiar. The no compete clause, which is, it's not necessarily, and I wanted to address this, but she had a non-compete clause in it. And of course the pay was in there. And of course, she took issue with the non-compete and the pay. One of the things I just wanted to address real quickly, and it was and a confidentiality agreement in it. The issue, I'm glad she felt like she needed to defend that she wasn't, making this stuff up. The issue that presented itself, just in the interest of integrity, we wanted to make sure we circle back and say that she did produce her contract that was actually given to her, whether via email or written paper. It was given to her. Three things, actually. The first thing is we have to understand in the business realm, everything that's actually discussed is not always going to be written, right? So this should not have been, when it's a discussion about something like you have to do this first before we do this. Sometimes it's not written. I know this because of my legal background. It's not hard to fathom that somebody will negotiate with you before they put something in writing. That's actually very normal. They do it in a lot of different industries. They do it in the insurance industry. They do, like, when they're negotiating back and forth, until they come to the number, nothing is going to be written down unless you force them to write it down. The second thing I want to address is the importance of the confidentiality agreement. When she felt like her back was against the wall, it put her in a situation where she produced a document which could actually hurt her career. The confidentiality agreement was whatever we discussed in this document between you and I, whether she signed it or not, it was between them. But she already had some struggles in entertainment. And so I just want to keep people very mindful of, when you go into negotiations with people and you have these confidentiality agreements that are probably discussed beforehand, think about how that could possibly hurt your career after, when you go and breach some form of breach, of confidentiality, when you start sharing information that they disclose to you. And the third thing is, and this is very important, I know a lot of people aren't familiar with this because I was looking at some of the comments on social media. Oh my God, they're trying to, that's a slave document and all this stuff. I've worked in a lot of different industries, and a non-compete clause is not a slave document, y'all. It's not. I've worked in oil and gas, and they're like, well, you worked with us. You might not be able to work with another oil and gas vendor for a year or so because you've been privy to information, trade secrets, other things that they want to make sure that they can retain a certain amount of profit before you go out and do some work with them. There are stipulations around a lot of things. I think it's important that we are educated about what it is modern day slavery and what's not, what's actually real pay disparity and what's not. Again, I wasn't in the room. I don't know all the details of it, but I know when we talk about this pay disparity, inequity between men and women, those are real issues that we cannot throw around those terms lightly and think that everyone falls in the same box. Some businesses, and I don't work for Netflix, I don't know how legit or I don't know anything about them to speak on their behalf. But what I do know is that we can't always think that the man is trying to get over on everybody.
Facts.
We just can't. We have to look at stuff from a different perspective. Everything is not the come up. Now, it's true, women are paid way less than men in most industries.
71 cents to the dollar.
Exactly. It is true that African American women are paid most times less than their white counterparts. That is true. However, we also have to look at all the facts, and we have to be able to weigh that in a situation and think about what exactly are they comparing it to. Again, this is business. So whatever they're actually putting out there, they need to make sure that it's going to return profit. So when you are in business and you're thinking about, what your worth is, you have to think about what you offer as well. And what's coming with you is your character. Are you able to bring numbers in? Are you going to give them what they're looking for? You have to think about it. And if not, use it as, like we talked about last week, use something for the next platform. Use it as a platform. So it might be a situation where you might have to say yes to something just to build up your credibility again. It's just one of those. It's a very interesting.
Monique, they need to give her coins. They need to give her some money. Netflix has the money, and Monique, people would watch it. So the question of whether people would watch it or not, I would definitely watch it over many of the other comics. Even like I think the question was like Amy Schumer. Right. It's a lot of guys on there that they were showing other people's contracts. First of all, you're right. It is business. So it's not like a civil rights movement. Kinda it is, but kinda it isn't. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think is a slippery, dangerous slope is that we're spending all of our energy mm-hmm. on, $500,000 conversations. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the best way to galvanize our entire community. Mm-hmm. We've really got to focus on pay disparities in corporate America. Funding for education, disparities mm-hmm. in education. I think that those are better issues. It just so happens that Monique has a platform. And I think if we were to have these celebrities do something, it behooves them to do the cancer walks that they do, do that. That's great. But also really focus on the disparity between how schools are funded in the inner city just from where they grew up.
Yeah.
And use your platform to do that. And I think, even with Chance the Rapper, he gave money in Chicago mm-hmm. to the schools in Chicago because that's where he grew up. I think we don't have to give money to a system that we already pay for. That's almost an injustice in and of itself. Mm-hmm. While we are arguing with Netflix, and I love Netflix, I think Netflix should be in the Constitution. I'm joking, but I do kind of a little bit think so. But while we're arguing with Netflix and with Monique, I just feel like there is there's almost a selfish run that's occurring with the people that are on our Black Lives Matter team per se. That is, it's kind of like everybody in the entertainment industry aren't the ones that are necessarily suffering on the ground level.
Well, I agree with that.
And Netflix should give her some coins because they got it and people will watch it. And she's a black woman. They don't have that many. I think that in terms of equity, they don't have that many black female comedians on with specials there, and I feel like that is real. That's a real conversation that they need to have.
No, they have to have a conversation. One of the things we talked about was the comment that Wanda Sykes made, and she said, "Yeah, I had something similar happen to me, but what I did, I went to the next network, got the better deal."
Yeah,
she said, "But I'm not going to poo on Netflix because
it's a business.
It's a business.
Do whatever they
want to do."
But I needed
to. But she recognized that for her, I'm not going to poo. I'm not going to poo on the next man. I'm just going to build up whatever I need to build up to show that I'm whatever it is. And I'm not saying that you need to go always prove yourself because we do know we need to work. We usually have to work twice as hard to get half as far. So that shouldn't always be the conversation. But I think she had a point. It's like we stop. We have to figure out if just because somebody doesn't give us what we think that we deserve doesn't necessarily mean you create this.
Yeah, I think she should call them out if that's what she wants to do and take her own repercussions. But I feel like we've got to stop using our on the ground energy, our movement energy for that. Like it wasn't. She was just like, come on, family. Come on, family. They still don't got clean water in some parts of this country. And
because are you donating?
They're shutting down schools.
Are you donating that money to a cause? Because I'm not trying to say that that's what she should do, but I'm just saying like what you said is there are bigger things that we can get behind, which you can use your celebrity for.
Yeah,
and not
galvanizing the black. Like she made it almost like it was like a Black Lives Matter thing. It wasn't like an injustice.
Most people are not going to boycott Netflix. Just real talk, and not because we don't believe in you, Monique. It's just because because it's like there's other things that's happening in the world, and Netflix may not be the cause of it. So it's kind of
she wasn't wrong, but
ill-timed.
That's Netflix right to tell her that's their
it's a
money.
That's what I'm saying. It's a business, so you have to think about it from a business perspective.
If she want to boycott them, she can boycott them. And I also feel like too, part of me feels like if it was Dave Chappelle, more people would support him. And so for me personally, I was like, I was only tweeting Netflix though, because I'm in the middle of Mad Men, so I need to finish it. But John Hamm, Lord,
look at
so
you,
funny. Amen.
Yeah,
but
one thing that's a key role in all of this is her reputation. And so we have to realize that that's an underlying theme of this conversation as well, is your reputation will precede you. Who knows why they gave her the $500K? Her reputation in Hollywood isn't strong right now.
Well, I mean,
right now.
Cat Williams was getting beating up people and beating up little kids.
But he didn't have an issue with execs.
You mean like Oprah?
No, like not even Oprah, like movie execs and people like that are saying
would work with him.
Like not
execs and producers aren't working.
So maybe it sounds like they were trying to sell her cheap because they know she was in a vulnerable position.
But this is my thing.
I'm not
potentially,
sure.
But then going back to my original statement,
your reputation goes.
Original statement. I know that through negotiations, everything is not always written. So if they offered her something and she was upset because they wanted her to audition or show some material that they felt like would make the people laugh, you have to kind of look at it from like when you immediately say no like that or whatever the conversation was, and they offer you the next thing, like, well, if you can't take that or if you don't want to come into the audition, well, we can at least offer you this. It's a lot of, like I'm saying, it's a lot of.
I just feel like
it's a business.
It's not a civil rights issue. It's a business deal. A lot of people offer me deals that I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's not.
I'm like, you just let it go. No, and that's it. But I think for us, it was a circling back conversation because we talked about it last week, and in fairness and the interest of integrity, because she produced her receipts, I wanted to make sure that we, addressed it, because I don't want it to seem like we were just okay. Well, she should have done this and that third. I'm like, no. Well, you produced these things on the internet to show that they did something to you that you felt like was unfair, and I wanted to say, yes, she produced it. That's what was written. However, let's look at the big picture. It is business, and unfortunately that's not the only business that has non-competes. My non-compete when I was working in oil and gas was 18 months. I could not work for any company that my consulting company worked for the time I was working there. That was it, and there was like 6 companies. So you have to look at it like, okay,
yeah, I hope she gets a good deal somewhere, because I mean, she's got
business,
talent,
unfortunately,
and she doesn't have to. If that's not for her, forget Netflix. Like I'm a binge watch it, but and if it came down to it where they were really doing her wrong, I feel like I would support her as a black woman, just because I feel like there has to be more support for people out there. But I just didn't think it was that serious to be on there acting like she was doing a skit. I didn't think it was all that serious. Baby, I need y'all. I was like, girl,
look at Christina's teeth, y'all. Ain't her smile amazing? Her
girl,
smile is amazing.
Thinking about your teeth. I was like, oh my God, she has perfect teeth.
Listen.
She has perfect
teeth. And
this
is why y'all need to take care of y'all dental hygiene. This portion of the show is sponsored by Elite Dental Wellness. Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We are committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and a friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are a part of our family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Baptiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Ashandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness by calling 713-789-8680. Again, that's Dr. Ashandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness, 713-789-8680. Get your teeth right.
Go get your teeth. Go get your grill fixed.
Get your grill fixed. And remember, your dental hygiene is connected to your brain and your heart, people. I mean, it's not a game. It's not just having nice teeth. It's just about being healthy all the way around. So it's more than one physical you need to get. And you're supposed to get those checked twice a year, these teeth.
Speaking of physicals, there's been this is brother by the name of Kobe Bryant.
Oh, Kobe.
And back in 2003, 2004, he was accused of getting a little too physical with a young lady.
Y'all, that was all over the news, y'all. He bought that wife a new ring. Y'all remember that?
Rape allegations.
I remember that.
Yeah, rape allegations. We were in school. We were in college together. And he was acquitted, but now he has since he's retired, he's gone to get into the tech space, into the animation space, and he's been actually nominated for an Oscar for his short animation film. But there's a petition going on right now to rescind his nomination because he's quote a known rapist. This is what the petition says. Over 16,000, I believe, 16,000 signatures or something like that.
And it's crazy because I'm like, what in the world is happening, people? Like,
so the question is, are we doing Me Too, or are we doing too much?
Like at what point? Because at what point, like, okay, he was acquitted of charges. This happened, and I'm not saying that length of time, excuses you of behavior, but we can, if we were gonna do, we could do this game all day. We can pull everybody. I mean, there's so many people that have been accused of something, charged with something, falsely charged of stuff. I mean, and we could be pulling records all day of people. And
I don't recall exactly what went down, but I believe he was like, it's her story. She said didn't she recant her story or something?
And he was like, whatever happened was consensual. And then she was like, well, yeah, you know what I mean? But so I'm kind of like
later on, I think later on, I think that it's a slippery slope with, first of all, but they want to go after Kobe Bryant because it's Kobe Bryant, and that's what happens with Kobe Bryant. But I think his story, I think she even came out about that story, that it was
not real,
that it was I don't remember, so I don't want to put words in her mouth. I don't want to discourage anybody from coming out, because
absolutely.
it is reality that there is a lot of things that happen, not just in the NBA, but just everywhere. There's a lot of things that happen where people are sexually assaulted, people are raped. So I don't, the voice for that has to grow because it happens more than it's talked about. But in terms of Kobe Bryant, how his case ended, I don't think that there's a relationship between. I think that really is not something that you just necessarily squash. It's something that really is. It's moot. It's not an issue. It's not R. Kelly, which is an issue,
ongoing,
and we really got to start addressing. But it's not the same
to his music, y'all.
So this is the thing. You know what I mean? At what point? At what point do we really live by innocent until proven guilty?
I think that was
because really it's more guilty until proven innocent at this.
But even with that, if that's the case, then this doesn't apply. Either one of those don't apply.
Because she's trying to make him guilty, although he was he wasn't proven innocent. But she's trying to rehash something that was already there's some sort of legal opinion already given by it.
Well, this goes along with one of our other talking topics, and feel free to jump in at any time. But at what point do we allow people's past to be their past? Exactly. Even if that's your feelings about it. This was 15 years ago, 14 years ago. So at what point do people grow out of whatever situation that they had at that point in their life? This wasn't a case where there were repeated acts or claims of a certain type of behavior. This was one situation, unfortunately, because he was an all-star athlete. And him and his wife worked through their situation, and I'm like,
cheating and Me Too are not the same
thing.
I don't think that rape. I think
that's a hard word to throw on somebody.
We need to take rape
a little more seriously,
very seriously as a nation. And one of the reasons why we do get the guilty until proven innocent is because we're so in the closet about the severity of or the pervasiveness of sexual assault and rape in this country. And I think that if we don't get a grip on that and start having real conversations about that, then it's going to be a situation where when it does come out the closet, no matter who people are talking about, whether it's the truth or whether it's not the truth, it's going to put people up in arms. And it's because I feel like as a society, we haven't been completely honest about the laws, the regulations, even when it comes to the prison system, about people who, a rapist can go home the same day versus like somebody who has some low-level drug offense in there for almost the rest of their life. I mean, probably feel like the rest of their life.
Hell, you in jail. That's a lot.
No, but for a long long time if they don't have the money for bail. But you have people who are, on college campuses, and they're raping their peers, and they're reporting it, but there literally is no system to deal with that. And I think the reason why we do have situations where people are innocent is because we don't have situations where people are being held accountable when they are guilty, and we don't even talk about it across the board. And I think if ever there is a situation or a case where it is that, it's up to the person if it goes away or not. And I feel like, you don't get to outlive things that you do as a grown adult, especially when it's something like sexual assault or rape. You just don't get to do that. Why? Because you're ruining somebody else's life. But I think in the case of this with Kobe Bryant, he was a cheater, but that's not illegal. I mean, well, maybe. I mean, you got to pay money, and you might
it's not illegal.
get it in court, but it's not a defamation of
it's like,
another person. It's not. It's not rape. It's not.
I mean, that's just
something.
Sex.
It's just not what. It's just not.
It's just sex. It's just sex.
And we're not again. We're not trying to make it less than important. It's just more the situations of why are we bringing up people's past? It's dragging it into the Me Too of something that's really current and situational. Like,
well, it's not really technically Me Too. It shouldn't even be in the category if it's not. If it was a case that, and I don't remember the details of the end. I thought I remembered the young lady recanting a little bit on her on what happened, saying it was consensual. But if that is the case, I think sometimes people just go after people like Kobe Bryant because they're mad. They're like, you can't be good at everything.
Right. No, I said that's why they said it was either Me Too or too much. Like, it's like, now we're going too
far.
Where
did y'all get that from?
The article.
The article actually said
the article said that?
Yeah, you can
Me
pull it up.
Too much.
It was the article said it was Me Too or too much. It was like that. That's what the article said.
The only caution for me is Me Too is so relevant, and it's extremely relevant, and I think we've got to figure out how we deal with that as a society.
No, we definitely need to figure it out, but it's like, this shouldn't be classified as such.
With his Oscar nomination, no, that's probably
it's going too far.
Too much hating. It's probably more hating than anything. If he cheated on his wife, that's just different from...
we need to figure it out as a society, how we're really going to deal with people who have done these egregious harms to ruin other people's lives. The swiftness in which they handled the gymnastics daughter, the gymnast doctor, excuse me, that was swift, and it was to the point, and they handled it. Like, if that's the case, we need to start handling everybody the same way. 100+ women showed up at court and made it very clear, this man did this to me.
Yeah,
let's handle him.
I mean, there are repercussions for it. I mean, crimes that there are known repercussions for. You're gonna go to jail. I mean, people stay away from those things generally, and they report those things, but I think it has a lot to do with patriarchy and just the long history of women being somewhat owned by men, and children not having much of a voice or as much of a value as adults. I think it has something to do with that.
I also have something to do with the comfort and the freedom that people talk about these issues in their home. I think we talk about this in a show in the past. There's a shame that comes with sexual assault, sexual identity, your comfort about sex, especially in certain homes. A lot of and it's one of the things we're going to talk about is, one of the issues that came up on an episode of Grownish was about the talk, and how this was not a normal talk, because mostly in African American households, we don't see the maturity that the parent handled that talk with the daughter about her becoming sexually active. Maybe the conversation was different because she was in college, but the issue is we don't talk about it even when kids are young, about what sex is, not to be ashamed of it. This is what, and we say it in a very don't let nobody touch you, but we don't really talk about it. I had a conversation with someone recently, and I told him, I said, well, I tell my daughter what it is. I said, I don't give it weird names to make her feel ashamed of it. It's not going to be your hoo-hoo and your turtle and stuff like that. No, you need to be able to say it, because if anything ever happens. Well, no, because a young lady said she tells her son it's his turtle. I said, this is the thing. If he ever has to go to court for something, they're not going to recognize what his turtle is. So they might think they're not going to be able to put that into evidence. His turtle could be an actual pet. You have to be able to tell him without shame anatomically what it is, because that creates that shame fear, the sphere of shame, not being able to talk about sex and being like, this is your blank, this is your blank. No one should talk, and it becomes this thing, and people are so freaked out about having these conversations that when something actually really happens, no one wants to talk about it, because it's weird and it's shameful. But we're going to talk about the shame later on. Anyways, this portion of our show is sponsored by The Sphere. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at The Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and inspiring dialogue coupled with your strategic ad is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. Again, the number is 832-772-7789 or advertise@thesphere.tv. Serious stuff, y'all. This is serious. It really is serious. Let's skip around to some things, Kaylin. Let's skip down and talk about the medical marijuana versus overturning marijuana convictions. Mm-hmm. So here in Houston, well, not Houston, in Texas, excuse me, medical marijuana has now been the first time medical marijuana has been delivered in Texas was to a 6-year-old this past week. She's needing it for these epileptic seizures that she's been having. And they approved that she gets this dosage. I know last year we talked about there was agreement that they would allow this HCG to come to Texas in a liquid form. Now, we have a conversation going on, and my conversation to this is, how far behind will Texas be when states start to really legalize marijuana? So far, we have California, we have Colorado. California as a state has the whole state a couple of weeks ago legalized marijuana in the state. And San Francisco is doing something amazing, and they decided they're going to retroactively go back and overturn about 40 years worth of marijuana convictions. That these persons that have been in prison for marijuana convictions will have an opportunity to appeal their conviction either for a lower count of a lower charge and or get out of jail. And so this is amazing. It's a great movement. But my question to you two is, how long do you think it's going to take for Texas to catch up? Because we're in Texas now. Now we're not in any other state. We're a different state now. I have to say we're a different state.
It's going to take a while simply because oil just got approved, and it's only in certain cases. And what is the TTH?
Medical the HCG?
Yeah, one of them letters. The oil for medical marijuana. We're so conservative in terms of our views. First of all, the fabric of this state is conservative. In terms of historically what it has been within the governmental sphere, and so we have to figure out a way. We being Texans, we being our government here, has to figure out a way how to navigate, that conservatism. I really think it will be a while. Listen, these very, very far right, not necessarily far right, but these strong right Republicans, they do not want marijuana in the state whatsoever.
Is it that they don't want the marijuana state, or they still have to figure out a way that it's profitable to
I think
those
it's both.
persons?
I really think it's both.
Okay.
I believe progressive Republicans want to figure out how to profit from it.
Okay.
Like a Rand Paul, he's not Texan, but he's kind of more of a progressive. He's Republican in terms of his party, but he also has some socially liberal ways. But those persons aren't in power fully yet, and we have a history of incumbency in this state, which means that people stay in office for a long time. And so you still have those boomers and Gen Xers who are like, I don't want weed in this state at all.
It's so funny.
And so I think it's to me, that's my opinion. Please weigh in on it, Christina. I don't believe it's gonna. I believe it's gonna be a while.
Soon, I think it's gonna be soon and very soon. I think you're right about the more conservative groups, but I think that they care about money at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and I think that they're waiting to see how other states are able to, not just taxes, to be able to distribute it, but they're looking at the profits that they make. And I think this is what they're looking at. They're looking at the numbers in terms of how the response from which groups and which communities, because they don't want all communities having it readily available.
No.
They want it to still be a situation where they can criminalize it in some form or fashion. And I think that's more of the concern for me personally. I don't smoke weed. I don't think it should be legal. I think McDonald's should be illegal. I don't think it should be illegal. I think marijuana I don't think marijuana is totally safe. But McDonald's is totally not safe, but so it's readily available.
Right.
That
so
should be
cigarettes.
illegal.
And so there's a list of things that kill you.
Not be, but weed is. I think weed is completely fine. And one thing that I am proud of is that in Harris County with the new DA, we've been
shout out to you.
Yes, we've been decriminalizing, and I'm saying we because I'm in Harris County and I voted for.
You better stand on your county, girl.
We've been decriminalizing it, and I think that's so important because there was a point not too long ago, just years back, where you could get pulled over and go to jail for a trace of marijuana. Yeah. Just a trace. Like it's a trace. Like you found something in the glove compartment.
Like this, like a seed.
Like a seed. Like they was looking for
God, dog, I just rented this car.
Your cousin bought it to go to the store, and now look at you. Your cousin.
Let me jump in with that. You said something that's really key in terms of the marijuana and all of this. I really think that it another reason they want to continue to criminalize it. Remember, the prison privatization in the state of Texas is like the fourth largest industry in the state of Texas in terms of revenue that's produced. 42 billion dollar industry in terms of prison privatization. So to continue to pump it, to pipeline it and pump it to the communities who the media says that it's in more black folks and black and brown, which is not true. It's actually more non-blacks and non-browns are users than us. To me that fuels it as well for a reason why they don't want to legalize it.
Well, I think they want to wait because they're going. So this is what I think they're gonna do. They want it to be like the prison system where it's a public thing where they can invest in it, because if they don't do that, then it'll get caught up in the pharmaceutical industry and they won't get that money.
Yeah, for sure.
But if it's more like an industrial complex, then they can make it where you have to have a license, you have to be registered, and so then
which is what Colorado and California are
they
doing.
Backdoor and they put Kiki and May in jail just like they do today for selling marijuana unlawfully, and I think that is what they're waiting to do. And I think that's. And this is why we got to be mindful of it, because who are they? Just the people that we've released our power to. They're nobody. They're just the people that are standing in the space that we have to step up and take.
And it's interesting because my thought was when we first talked about this, what San Francisco is doing as a city within California. They said, for us, it's about us trying to lead the charge with the state and with the nation. About we put a lot of people in jail for something that we all the whole time we knew wasn't a dangerous drug. Right. And so I want to know, how is this going to throw a wrench in the progress of other states that are like, okay, are we going to be expected to actually produce the same type of, outcome where we're releasing people? Because, the privatization of prisons, that's a big thing too. Like, how many people will we lose? That ratio, what's that going to look like? Now we're going to have to figure out other ways. People that have never been criminalized for things are now going to start having to be, put into the system because, you're going to start losing people. Those heads count.
Well, I mean, when we look at the prison industrial complex, though, we're not talking about Kansas and Kentucky.
No.
And we're not. So they don't really care if they're not
I'm
driving.
Talking about Texas.
Yeah, they're not driving in the trap
of
in the boonies of Missouri to go find people like they do in the hood. They do that as a part of the industrial complex. And so the states that are so legalizing it or not, they're gonna smoke weed in Oregon on the Oregon Trail because
absolutely
nobody's trying to run and catch them up and trace marijuana in their car. Nobody's doing that to them. But when it comes to these black belt states, where there were large where there were large plantations in the Floridas, in the Georgias, in the Carolinas, in the Carolinas. When you look at these black belt states where there are high concentrations of African Americans, and when you look at these the new border states, which are like the Latino based states in even in Arizona, they're getting a lot stricter. In New Mexico, they're getting a lot stricter, but mostly in California, you're looking at this where a large population of people who they have interest in selling drugs to, but also criminalizing for the use of drugs. And those are the only people really being policed. They're not, and they're policing, of course, the New Yorks and the DCs of the world, but they're not policing these middle states. And so those bigger states, those larger states like Texas, are the only ones that are really going to probably benefit from or have an interest in, just because I think of this duality of how do you make money and then how do you maintain your complex. That's because that's where the prison industrial complex really does exist.
Absolutely. Well, we just have to, I mean, I don't know. It's just so much with that. I don't know if you have anything else to contribute to this conversation.
I could talk about it for 2 hours, but, I think it's a conversation to where it's so polarizing. But, because we haven't even touched on the fact that it's not even legal federally yet.
Yeah.
So that would even be a different battle. Now,
it could happen. The funny thing is, it could happen in a blink of an eye.
It could, but
in a blink of a tweet.
A blink of a tweet. I mean, literally, one day we went to sleep, the next morning woke up and certain things were legal, and we're like, wow, how did that happen?
But when you look at historically, in terms of those states who have pushed policy, Texas is one of them. Texas is one of the states that wants. I mean, our electoral votes, the money the money that we have here in this in the state, the tax revenue that we produce federally, all of these kinds of things, oil, us being the second largest producer of oil in the Western Hemisphere, in this state, we have some power. So as Texas goes, then you can start to see the trajectory of the rest of the United States.
Especially
Florida will follow. Exactly. New York, even though New York would follow. You know what I'm saying? And so we're in a unique position to actually influence change one way or the other. But again,
I think that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah.
They're waiting for, how do we keep the money, and they can figure out away from the pharmaceuticals.
Get the bag, y'all. Get the bag. Secure that bag.
But they also want to secure that other bag, which is the industrial complex. What's
gonna be the swap?
Well, they're not going to swap it. They're going to figure out, how do they not give it to the pharmaceuticals? How do they keep an open marijuana industry where they can sell it, where they can license it and make it still. So now it's illegal for Kiki and May to sell it. They go to jail for selling it. So that's why we get to put them in jail.
Education is key.
But if you make it legal just for certain distributors, then you can make it exclusive, make it so high that they can't afford to be it. So what can you do? You can get the money from the exclusivity, but you can also still put Kiki and Mame in jail because they're not licensed and can't afford to be licensed.
It's a lot to this. This is going to be a good conversation, because I know that recently there was a young lady, the first African-American woman, that's opening up a dispensary in her state. So, and it's just going to be interesting to see how that evolves, and the education and I mean, again, I don't smoke marijuana, Ivy, but but it's more of a situation where what is going to happen to those minorities and ethnicities who, are more apt to indulge, participate, want to profit. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. So,
and Canada is now trading it publicly. Our brothers to the north are trading marijuana publicly
on their exchange.
Yeah, on their exchange. So, listen, we got to watch this thing, because it really could turn. It really could be something really, really big.
I mean, because it's a plant, y'all. It's not like we got to go create it. It's a plant. So we love y'all. Y'all are amazing. I mean, this conversation, we had so much to talk about, but the things that we talked about with the poly chick, y'all got to stay tuned to her, because she got a lot going on. Great stuff going on. Stuff coming down the pipe. Please get her book. Get your weight up, learn, get knowledge, and be educated on what's going on in our Constitution, not necessarily in their Constitution. Know your power. You have anything you want to say?
No, just thank you guys for having me. This was really fun.
For our we have viewers, because we do have a video portion, but for our listeners, those who are just on the audio portion on the podcast, give them your website, your contact information, everything.
Yes, you can go to ChristinaDionSanders.com. That's Christina DIONNE Sanders.com. And I'm also on Twitter at IamThePolichick on Twitter.
Perfect. Well, listen, this is Senor Wapo signing out.
And I'm the modern day Cindy.
We'll see you next time for Society Now.
See you next week.